Why is 125 proof bourbon more expensive than 80 proof bourbon? Is it that much more expensive to add alcohol to it? And can you add alcohol to bring an 80 proof bourbon up to 125 proof? No, that's not how it works at all. I'm a total noob, working to increase my knowledge of bourbon and develop my palate. So come along with me on this journey. Okay, if you're like me, I watched a lot of YouTube videos about barrel proof bourbon and how much better it was than 80 proof bourbon, and thought, gosh, it's just got extra alcohol in it. Alcohol's pretty cheap. You could just, add a little Everclear into your 80 proof and suddenly you got 125 proof, right? Wrong. No, it doesn't work like that at all. The distillers don't add alcohol to the bourbon to proof it up. They add water to bourbon to proof it down. Bourbon goes into the barrel at no higher than 62.5% alcohol, which is 125 proof. Now some goes in and less, but 125 proof is about what most bourbon goes into the barrel at. And it ages for several years, and in that time it can go up in proof because of some evaporation. But let's just say that for argument's sake, that barrel proof is 125. So when that bourbon comes out of the barrel, it's going to have the most flavor, the most notes, the best scents, the best coloring it's going to ever have. I mean, that's as good as that bourbon is going to get when it comes out of the barrel. And then, for several reasons, the distiller will add water to it, and they do this real slow. They don't just dump in water. It sometimes can take over about a month to proof this bourbon down to a particular proof point. And they do this for one, because to make more bourbon. I mean, the more water you add to bourbon, the more bourbon you're going to be able to sell. But that's really not the only reason. It's also proofing down the bourbon. It kind of mellows it out. It does bring out some different flavors. So I'd like to do a little experiment. Let's go ahead and just show you about how much water they actually put in bourbon to bring a barrel proof at 125 down to 100, which is what a bottle and bond bourbon would be, and then down to 80. So let's go ahead and do that. Now I've got a barrel of really good stuff over here. I'm going to roll in and show you how we can do this. And you can do it at home too if you'd like. Okay, here comes that barrel of good stuff. Rolling it in. It's pretty heavy. Okay, there's our barrel of 125 proof bourbon right there, or at least some facsimile. And I've got 3 glasses. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour 4 ounces of this into each of these glasses. All right, so there's 4 ounces of wonderful, right out of the barrel bourbon in each of these glasses. As you can see, it's a nice, dark, rich color. There's a good smell to it and very good taste. This we're going to leave at 125 proof. So this is the barrel proof, so that's pretty expensive stuff. This one in the middle, we're going to proof him down to 100 proof. And basically I've done all the math for you, and you can check this out too. But if you take 4 ounces of bourbon, or you would add 1 ounce of water to it. So I'm adding 25% water to this bourbon to bring it from 125 proof to 100 proof. And just think of, if this was a 4,000 gallons of bourbon, I'd add 1,000 gallons of water to it. So there it is. As you see, it kind of lightens it up. It's kind of watered down. Okay. So if I want to take this 125 proof bourbon over here and proof him down to 80 proof, I'm going to add 2.5 ounces of water to that 4 ounces of 125 proof bourbon, or 2.25 thousand gallons to this 4,000 gallon vat of 125 proof bourbon. Notice it's still got a pretty decent color, but it's really, notice it still has a pretty good color, but it is kind of lightening it up. It is watering it down. Okay, so let me go ahead and taste these. And if you notice, we got a lot more in this one the 80 proof, so I can sell more of this bourbon. Now I can't really sell it at that high of a price because, it's not going to be as flavorful and not have, all the aromas and just the concentration of this bourbon. So I'll go ahead and test this one. And it tastes just like, well, what Coca-Cola actually, what it is. Should taste like. This one, it tastes kind of watered down, kind of a little bit flat. And this one, yeah, if as long as you told me that had Coke in it, I probably would say, yeah, I guess that's Coke, or it might be a Coke facsimile. But not as good as that. Now, not saying that 80 proof bourbon is bad. 80 proof bourbon's great. Sometimes that's the proof point where a bourbon is at its best, and that's for a master blender to determine and to hit that proof point for that bourbon is really going to make it shine. And a lot of times it's not at 125%, 125 proof. Well, what we're going to do over the course of the next few weeks, I'm going to do my palate building exercise. We're going to do Four Roses, which was the bourbon from last week. I'm going to go ahead and sample it again and see if my impressions of it have changed, if my palate has changed. And then I'm going to start on a line of bourbon and going to do the 80 proof bourbon, which is the benchmark 8, 100 proof bourbon, which is the Bottle and Bond benchmark, and the barrel strength bourbon, which is 125 proof. And just start out here and then move up the next week and move up the next week and just see if I notice the same thing that I did when I was trying the Coca-Cola. So let's go ahead and set up for the Four Roses, and I'll do my test. I've been drinking this all week, and we're just gonna sample it and see if my tastes have changed. All right, last week's palate building bourbon is Four Roses. It's the 80 proof, and that's from Four Roses Distilling. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a sniff and a try. Been drinking it all week, as you can see. And smells really good. I'm really getting used to it. And give it a sip. I'm starting to taste the caramel for sure. And that's something I'm starting to do too, is when I eat caramels or something with vanilla in it, something with baking spices or other, other notes that are common in bourbons, I'm starting to think about it and close my eyes and what does this think about? Where am I? What does it taste like? And just kind of be in that moment. And in being in that moment, when you're tasting things, is the best way, they say, to build your palate, so that when you taste that in bourbon, you'll recognize it. And that's what I'm kind of working on. And if it's working, then I'll build my palate. If it's not, at least I'm enjoying some good bourbon. So I'm gonna go ahead and try a little bit over ice. That's the way I normally drink it. And there's no wrong way to drink bourbon. Well, I guess there is. The wrong way to drink bourbon is the way you don't like drinking it. So I'm going to have just a little bit of our ice, which kind of opens it up. And yes, that's going to bring it down less than 80 proof, but that's all right. And at least I think I am tasting the caramel. Maybe a little bit of the oak, but absolutely. All right, so let's taste that Benchmark Old Number 8. And this is the first in this proof up, let's call it that. And I'm gonna have the Benchmark number 8 this week. And of course, next week I'll have the bonded 100 proof. And then the week after that, we're gonna go to the 125 full proof. So yes, Benchmark is kind of a low priced bourbon, but hey, it's a cheap way to do this experiment. So let's go ahead and have a little bit. I've got a glass right here ready for it, and this is the Old Number 8. And it's a Buffalo Trace product, and this is the Buffalo Trace Mash Bill 1, which a lot of the good Buffalo Trace products use the same mash bill. It's not like this stuff they're not making it in the backyard. This stuff is, got good heritage actually. So let's go ahead and try it. Let's sniff it. It's pretty good. That smells more alcohol than the Four Roses. I think it's going to have a little bit more bite. I think it has probably a little bit more rye. Oh, it's not bad. That's surprising. Almost has like a honey, like it's got like a caramel and maybe a little honey. Because it's I know the word smooth in bourbon is kind of like passe, but it's a lot smoother than I thought it was going to be. So let's try it over ice. I think I'm gonna like this this proof challenge. If these other bourbons are as good as this one, hopefully only with more flavor. Let's try over ice. Really good. Got a little oakiness. I can taste that in the caramel. But yeah, that's the 80 proof Benchmark Old Number 8. So I'll drink this over the course of the week, come back, do another tasting of it, and give my impressions. If my impressions have changed, if I'm tasting anything else different. And this is a slow journey, but hey, the journey's half the fun to getting there. Then we'll try the 100 proof, the bottle and bond. Maybe we'll talk about what bottle and bond actually means. And then the next week we'll do the barrel proof. So come with me on this journey. Please leave me a comment. If you'd like to do the same thing, you can do it with me. You can do the same journey. You don't have to use the same bourbons I'm using. Use bourbons that you have. Taste that bourbon. Think about how it tastes, what you're tasting. Drink it over the course of a week, and then taste it again. Taste it neat, in a glass that's like a glass that has a kind of rounded bottom and a smaller top, or a Glencairn glass if your family gave you a Glencairn glasses for Christmas maybe. And just come back and you take those impressions and have you noticed anything different? Has your palate changed? Because that's kind of the whole point of it, is to build your palate where you can taste these different notes in bourbon and be able to explain it, and just be able to discern the differences in the bourbons. And if you can't, hey, that's okay. You still can enjoy bourbon without knowing exactly what it tastes like, because I know I'm having a pretty good time doing this. So come back and do that with me next week, and in the meantime, enjoy.